Okay, so the great thing about that trailer, other than it working the second time, is that I think it's going to be the only thing that you've already seen that's going to be on the screen for the rest of the panel. Is that right? Everything else is going to be new from this point onwards. Screenshots, information,
That's
good.
Right. Yep.
And welcome to the develop session for Elite Dangerous. I'm Chris Brett from Eurogamer, and I'm going to let these fine gentlemen from Frontier introduce themselves. We'll start on the left.
Okay, so my name's Sandro Samarco, and I'm lead designer for Elite Dangerous.
I'm David Braben. I'm CEO of Frontier, and some of you might know me. Thank you.
Michael Brooks, I'm executive producer on Elite Dangerous.
Okay, great. And I guess before we move on to Horizons itself, the game launched back in December now. So looking on, how do you guys feel about the launch? A few months down the line.
Oh, delighted the way it's been. We're now roughly 9 months in, and with a number of people joining us is continuing to grow. It's very, very exciting. We're in a great place. We're building out more and more things with the game, and very exciting about some of the things to come, of course, which we'll talk about in a minute.
How long does that go on for? How long is Elite Dangerous going to continue to expand and grow?
Well,
is there even an answer to that question?
The amazing thing is there is so much more to do. That's what's so exciting about it. There's
a universe out there.
Exactly, absolutely, and we're gradually bringing it in.
Excellent. Okay, well, I guess we should move on to Horizons, I think, starting with Planetary Landings, is that right? Which is going to be a big thing. Completely changes how players interact with the planets they discover and play around. So, yeah, who wants to kick off and kind of tell us about that?
Yeah, so obviously up till now the planets have been sort of beautiful balls in the sky, and now when Horizons releases, you'll be able to go down to the surfaces of the various moons and planets, those without atmospheres, and there'll be a whole raft of new gameplay down there. You'll be able to take off in the buggy and go driving around looking for things, and there'll be settlements for you to discover. It's going to be, there's 400 billion odd systems in there, so how many quintillion planets?
Yeah. But I think the key thing is there is so much for you to do down there. So they are big areas, but there are things to do that are new. Things to explore, very exciting stuff. So obviously more to come on that.
Okay, so that's how that works. How did you do it? How do you do it? Because that sounds like a gigantic task. Like, how do you even start to create worlds like that, considering it wasn't in the game from the start?
Okay, well, I can talk about the planet level, and Sandy can talk about the gameplay, which of course is
okay, Sandy,
more
I've given you
important.
probably the biggest question to answer there, but go ahead.
So the gameplay, how do we handle it? With a lot of late night thinking, actually, to be honest. So really, you start with the basics of what do? You drive a buggy. It's a surface recon vehicle. It's really cool. It's like an 8-wheeled, all-terrain vehicle. So first of all, you make sure that the actual mechanics of driving around are fun. We want to be able to power drift. It's got lots of thrusters all over it, so it can right itself. But it also means that it can do massive powered jumps. So there's and it's armed, obviously. It makes it a lot better. So once we've got the buggy handling and it's fun and you can play with it, then of course it's about things to discover and things to interact with. So we're looking at it at two strands. There's the kind of gameplay you can get on pretty much any planet that you can visit, the kind of exploration type gameplay, and then there's we have settlements and more the human element of how humans have settled. With outposts of various sorts on some of these planets. So there's lots of fun gameplay to be had with those, with the way that you deal with it with your SRV.
How do you create those worlds? Though? Is there an awful lot of generation going on there? Because that sounds, as I said, just such a huge task to even.
Right. So all of the planets are generated from first principles via. We already evolve all the planets from what you call planetesimals that are at the formation of the solar system, and it comes out of that simulation.
Sure.
What the whole chemical makeup, what's there, what there is to mine, and what fun things, reasons to go there. So the planet naturally flows from that, whether it's got chasms down it, which you can go and fly down, all of those things, they feed into gameplay. And you will get an eye to recognize certain kinds of features from that lead to the gameplay that follows.
Do you as developers feel that you have to, so you have the general concept of what that planet is going to be based on the information you just said, but how do you make it worth visiting? How do you make it fun? Is there anything that you have to add on top of that? Or
yes.
What are the reasons for landing on these planets and exploring them?
Absolutely. I mean, don't forget what we've got. We've got a whole sort of background simulation anyway, so we know why people will be there.
Sure.
If a planet is way out, then there will be new things, there'll be lots of things that other people won't have found. If it's further in, there's be mining going on, all sorts of things. So that sort of dynamic already drives the gameplay.
Yeah, and exploration is it's a key part of the gameplay in itself. So not only are you scanning for new planets, you can actually go down and actually find areas on the planets that reveal something new that you might not have discovered before.
How does that process work? So as the player, how do you go from orbiting a planet to landing on it?
So that's a whole sequence that we have. So those familiar with the game at the moment will know that you can super cruise around the star system. As you approach a planet,
right,
you then go into an orbital cruise mode, which basically allows you to move around the planet quite quickly. And then we say, right, okay, there's a mountain down there I like the looks of. That might have some nice bit of mining, or maybe I've received some sort of mysterious transmission. So then I aim for it and I fly down, and then you can enter into a suborbital flight mode, and the ship handles differently once you're into that.
Right.
So there's a whole new skill there to be learned with the different ships, and of course some ships will handle better near planets than others.
I like that you referenced like discovering a mountain and wanting to climb it, because that seems to be in open world games, that's always the reason you want to explore. You're like, that thing looks massive, I want to go and be on top of it.
Well,
So
the idea is that we have these big planet scale features.
Yep.
So you can see Europa lines are a good example. Where if you look at the picture of Europa, you see these cracks in the surface. Well, you can see those cracks, and then you can fly down, and you can fly in between them, have little dogfights in there, or explore in your vehicle.
how big are the planets? How big can they be feasibly?
They can be as physically big as, so I think for the rocky ones, they get up to about 7 times Earth size.
That's right, so pretty huge. And also down to sort of things that look a bit potato-shaped.
Yeah.
That's
And
incredible.
the gravity affects your flight model and driving as well. So if you're driving in a high G world, your bunny hops don't work quite as well. You're
Sure.
sort of held to the ground much tighter.
Presumably you've been playing around with some of these already yourselves. Like, are there any examples of weird, interesting planets you found that surprised you?
So now we have, so before where they were, as I say, almost pretty balls. I don't want to denigrate what the artists have done. I mean, they look fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But now even the smaller ones, as David just mentioned, they become deformed, so they're almost potato-like. So you can have sort of 100-kilometer sort of very weirdly shaped objects. And the gravity's so low, you can pretty much hop from one end to the other.
Yeah.
Some pretty big jumps.
Yeah.
That's good.
The other thing, ironically, we call horizons, but of course the smaller it gets, the less of a recognizable horizon you get, like in the screenshot we're looking at now.
Yeah, excellent. Horizons obviously isn't just about the planetary landings, there's other things going on as well. One of the big things to talk about is ship launch fighters. I think that's probably the next big topic to hit. What are they? Why will players want to use them?
Well, it's wonderful. I mean, as we're building both smaller ships and larger ships, particularly the larger ships, when it comes to large trade ships, you feel you need more of an ability to defend yourself.
Sure.
So the ability to carry a fighter is wonderful, where you still get the fighter gameplay, but you've got a big lumbering behemoth.
Yeah. How do you see that changing just how players explore and move around the world?
So the planet surface is an interesting one. If I'm in a T9, I don't really want to be flying through a mountain. I want something fast and nimble. But I can also support friends who are on their buggies, so they can be driving along, and then you can have the fighter up above providing protection. Again, for wings and traders, they get attacked, they can all pop into a fighter and try and defend. They've got a chance of defending themselves that way.
So what does the remainder of the ship do whilst you're in the fighter? Like, is there some kind of basic AI takeover, or?
So the ship will be able to carry on more or less doing.
Oh God, can you lose
routines by itself?
So it's essentially on autopilot.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. So it will be able to defend itself still. Obviously, it would be pretty poor if you got out of your ship to protect it and then it just got wasted straight away. So yeah, especially for the larger ships, where they can be quite vulnerable to some of the mid-range fighters, especially fighters like the Vulture, which is a very powerful, reasonably small ship that can run rings around most of the bigger ships. So it just offers people another choice where they can say, well, you can take on my big ship, but you've also got to worry now about me in my little fighter, which, yeah, they're not the most robust things in the world, but they have very powerful weapons. So their weapons are more than incapable of damaging all of the ships. So it hopefully it's going to create a lot of new dynamics to the way that combats take place.
Do you expect most players to end up using these ships eventually? I get this must be something that you think about every time you introduce a new ship and a new mechanic such as this. Like, how does that affect Elite Dangerous as a whole? Are you going to fly around and see a bunch of like kind of?
It's horses for courses. Yeah. I think it's all about choice.
Yeah.
I think lots of people want to do it because there's always it's new and they're really cool.
It sounds but that's a good reason.
But actually, what we don't want to do is make a path of least resistance where everyone has to have a fighter bay. Some ships really kind of need them, and it's a real big benefit. Other ones don't need them so much. So it's really entirely up to the player, basically how they want to play the game.
I mean, don't forget, it's only the much larger ships that have this ability anyway,
sure.
But they're the ones where it's appropriate. And I think with all of these things, it's creating new opportunities for rich gameplay that we put these things in. And the reason we're doing them in the order we're doing them is for exactly that.
Sure. Okay, cool. You mentioned before it will change how you maybe fly and fight alongside your buddies. It seems like co-op is going to also be a bit more of a focus in Horizons.
Well, absolutely.
With the multi-crew feature being introduced. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yep.
So I think we need to move on.
Yeah, okay, so multi-crew is something else coming to Season 2, which is extremely exciting. And of course it feeds into the last one with the fighters. There are so many things that you want to do with multi-crew in terms of splitting the function of the ship. Some of the much larger ships, they have a lot of different weapons. It brings in a lot of opportunity there. When you go down to a surface, someone can stay on the ship. Excellent. So it doesn't have to go into, to just stay there or go onto autopilot or whatever. So it creates a lot of richness for the whole experience.
Where did the decision come from to do this? Is it as simple as co-op often makes things better?
We've wanted to do this for a long time.
Sure.
With all of these things, it's essentially choosing your favourite features, trying to order them in an order that's sensible. You think, well, we can't really do that without this and all this sort of thing. So
maybe that answers my question from earlier about how long the development goes on for with Elite. It's until you get through that large list, I imagine.
That's right. But the list is getting longer.
It's a ridiculously long list.
That's right.
So as you're flying through space, like, how does this multi-crew setup work in terms of are both players handling a different element? Like,
yes.
What's going on there?
So blatantly, only one person flies the ship at a time.
Yep.
Wouldn't really work too well if two
probably
people had
not.
control. You've got the accelerator, right, and I've got the steering wheel. So one person flies the ship, but virtually all of the other subsystems, including the various weapons, especially turret weapons. And again, this feature really shines on the bigger ships, where there are a lot more turret weapons, and there's a lot larger shielded areas. So other players, other crew members, get to operate all of those controls. And we're going to look at ways that we can enhance the standard gameplay so that when there are more people in a ship, then basically it can get an advantage over the way it works.
Sure.
So there should be lots of things for everyone to do.
And of course you can jump into a fighter as well.
Yeah, and exactly, with fighters and the surface recon vehicles.
Excellent. Yeah. So in that screenshot we can see two players working together. Is 2 the cap for multi-crew, or how high can it go? Is there an,
Higher than 2?
higher than 2?
Right, so there is an element here of what works well.
Yeah.
Because one of the problems is you go much more than 2 or 3, you start thinking, well, all right, what could they do? So being completely open, we don't know how high we would go.
Yep.
But 2 is higher than 1.
Yes, okay, fair enough. I mean, the idea of treating your ship, having a bridge where there's a commander and people doing various parts all on the Skype together or something is just kind of wonderful, I'm
It's
sure.
very, very exciting, yeah.
Excellent.
And it sort of also feeds into what we're going to talk about next as
Yes. So when you Elite Dangerous, although you're often controlling the same ship for a long period of time, you're not really controlling the ship. You're controlling the character within that ship.
well. That's right.
Wouldn't it be nice if they had a face?
It would. So we show
Cue the next screenshot or trailer even. So I think we're just gonna let this play. Okay, I've got one very important question. What have you got against hair? There's no hair.
Have you seen Sandy?
They're all modelled on me. I'm not going to say.
No, the hair thing is there will be options of hair
Sure.
and beards, of
Excellent.
course.
There we are.
But
all muddled.
we're very fussy about quality, and what we want to show is those. What's amazing is the sheer amount of variation there is. Sliders for everything, and it's great. But we want to make sure they all look, wonderful, absolutely top-notch quality.
Excellent.
So, and actually, they do look quite cool with no hair.
They do look pretty cool.
Oh yeah, sorry, obviously.
So how is that going to work once it does hit Elite Dangerous? Is obviously people have already been playing the game already. They're not going to be starting a new character. So where do you introduce the character creation screen, or the commander creator?
It will be nested in the interface. So
after that
everyone's
update,
playing, we'll be able to say, okay, now I can show you what my character looks like.
is that something that can change, or
Yeah, essentially, it's not really mattered up to now because there isn't a way you can see your character, if that makes sense. But I think also, that as with Season 2, and as we expand the game going forward, we're also adding, we've done the vast scale, we're adding the human scale, if you like.
Sure.
So one thing with the SRVs is realizing how amazingly big even something like a Cobra is. Just driving around it in the SRV, you realize actually it's a big thing.
Yep.
And so having more things that are at a human scale is a really interesting contrast because it emphasizes how big the big scale is.
outside of the creator itself, when are players going to see their characters' faces and also the faces of other players? Does that feed into the multi-crew kind of idea?
Multi-crew is an obvious use for it. And going forward, there are a lot of other things.
Are there going to be mirrors?
Talking about.
I guess I'm
yes,
asking.
that's right, indeed.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll move on to the new loot and crafting system that you talked about at Gamescom. Hopefully, you can talk about that in a little bit more detail today.
Yeah. So obviously, we're still going through it, but the core concept is it allows a greater degree of customization and power for your ships. But also, it's another nice reward system to go in the game. Mm-hmm. So you're not just making money now. Now there's other things to look for as well. So if you want those kind of nice blue lasers to go with your Imperial
or
ships,
green lasers,
or green, then you can craft them basically. And we don't want to make the process too complex, but we want to use all of the gameplay mechanics that we currently have in the game, to increase the value of everything that you do, whether it's combat, exploration, trade, mining, bounty hunting, all of it. So we want to tie it all together with this reward system.
Sure.
So it's going to be pretty cool, hopefully.
It allows the creation of special things. I think that's the important thing.
Yep.
unique or close to unique to you, that's what's attractive about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how much of that emphasizes cosmetic changes then? Is it like you mentioned, like changing the color of your laser sounds like a small thing, but it's huge in terms of making you feel like it's your ship.
Absolutely, no, it's interesting. Cosmetic stuff is one of those things where in a game that's multiplayer, it is important. It's important to be able to personalize
You want to
your
show
ship.
off a little bit.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but it's not just
It's not just cosmetic.
Yeah, of course,
Don't get, I mean, it's just green lasers might have ratios of damage whether it's
Absolutely.
a shield or hull
Sure
or
thing.
and all that sort
Yeah,
of
you want a gun that creates malfunctions in enemy ships? Yeah, you can do that. There's a lot of interesting, not just increasing the power of your equipment and weapons and modules, but also altering their effects. So you can literally, we can subvert some of the normal weapon types and normal module types, get them acting in different ways. It's new and interesting gameplay.
So is this going to be another one? Will this feed back into the planetary exploration a little bit? Give you one of these reasons to explore because you need certain materials, certain crafting elements for this exact stuff.
The idea is that every role-in game can access different of these components that we use to form the loot system. And some of those are going to be very rare, and some of those you'll have to find on planets.
Sure.
So the idea is that you can cast off right so that explorers can find things, miners can find things. In combat, you can get debris or whatever.
Exactly.
And these things can be
that.
combined in different ways to have different effects.
Sure.
And we can also make more use of things like wrecks and things which might have, as Michael says, something in them.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some value to it as well to the player.
And it's important to note that this isn't just for Season 2. The loot reward system, it's across the board. It's for everyone. There might be some, because obviously some stuff you'll only find on planets, so you'll need to be able to visit planets to get it.
Yep.
But there's also, that, as Michael says, and David says, in all of the activities that you do in the game, we want to get some of the reward system in that as well.
Sure, that's an interesting thing just to touch on actually. What is the experience going to be like for players that have purchased Elite Dangerous but haven't upgraded to Horizons yet? Like, how different are those two games going to be? Because it's in the same world.
Season 1 will continue to improve, but most of the new features we're talking about are Season 2.
Sure.
That's the important thing.
So the fundamentals will continue to feed through
right.
to both. The new features come with the new season.
Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent. Cool. And when you obviously announced Horizons, you said holiday 2015. Is that still what you're looking at?
Still 2015.
Yep. Okay. Good. Nice and vague. What else is coming this year? What else are you? All right. Well, good luck. What else is happening with Elite Dangerous?
So there's still the 1.5.
Yep.
So as David just said, we're still. Oh well, we've gone into 1.4. So.
Right. So let's talk about 1.4.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So 1.4 CQC is great for those. It's in the Mayhem thing. For those who haven't tried it, do try it. It's surprisingly compelling, and it's amazing how you get so used to, or at least I do. Maybe I'm unusual. Preserving your ship or feeling you're going to lose stuff, whereas CQC you can just go in hell for leather. I think once the ship gets bigger, you get less hung up on that. But for that first part of the gameplay. You don't want to risk
You're a
stuff.
bit precious about it, sure.
Yeah, that's right. But you just go in and have good fun. And it is good fun. The only problem is, when I fly as Commander Braben, which I don't always do, I don't half get attacked in CQC, especially on deathmatch. And I'm sure there are people in this audience who have killed me. And yes,
what a thing to be able to say.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm rubbish at it.
Yeah, I am a bit rubbish at it.
So, yeah, okay, 1.4, good. 1.5 we were going to talk about next. That will be the update that's coming alongside Horizons, right?
Yep. Right, so, yeah.
When Horizons is released, 1.5 will be released as well, and available to everyone who has Season 1 or buys Season 1 later. So that will bring our complement of ships up to 31, I believe.
Right, yeah, so it's 30, and for those who have Season 1 and Season 2, it's 31.
Yep.
Because of the Cobra Mark IV that we've talked about already.
Of course, and then there's the Xbox One version as well.
Well, no,
which is...
we're also showing one of the ships
there we are.
Today, this is the Viper Mark IV, which is wider, more capable. He's got a sort of strange wing thing. Sorry, you'll be more technical about it.
It's the strange wing thing. It trades a bit of manoeuvrability and a bit of speed for better internals. It's a tougher ship basically. So it's what we always do when we create the ships is we don't want to create a path of least resistance and say this ship is the best ship. There's always trade-offs. So I don't think the Viper's quite as manoeuvrable than my Viper Mark IV as its predecessor. It's got exactly the same hardpoint layout as well as the standard Viper, but it's got better internals. It's definitely a lot tougher. It can take more punishment. So it creates a really interesting dynamic because in that Viper Cobra range, even though the changes, some of them subtle, it is significantly different overall. Sure. So that's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons when that comes out.
With all of these things, we're looking at sort of spaces in the range and where it logically fits. And say, we haven't got. So we are filling in holes in our grid for certain types of usage.
How long does that process take from deciding that you locate the kind of dynamic that you need? You need a new ship. You need something with a certain amount of maneuverability and which other kind of features you feel are missing at the moment. From that conversation to actually having a finished product, how long does that take? Because it's such an enormous metagame to even begin considering.
I don't actually know. I do think it varies sometimes with the ship. Some ships are just have more obvious needs than others. So I can't answer that question.
Every discipline's involved in making
the ships at the core of everything.
You've got the arts, there's audio, obviously, and design, and just bringing it all together, and that varies between the ships.
It's funny, I mean, compared to the old days, if you know what I mean, where you're just drawing a line. There's so much. It's like building a car. There are so many systems that go into it, working out how they fit together, what they feel like, and all that sort of thing. That it is a big team effort, and it depends whether how much of that is paralleled up, or how much of it is linear. But it does take a long time. It's months, not days.
Sure. And then even once it's out there, I guess it's not necessarily a finished product. Even then, you need to see how the community react to it. And
well, indeed, we've gone through a beta stage, and we tune it, and that's why we do it at a much lower price, just to make sure we can
make sure everyone's okay with it.
Well, make sure it works.
Yeah, that's good. Cool. And I mentioned briefly before, but obviously the Xbox One version of Elite Dangerous is coming up this year as well. Do you want to say anything about that before? It's very soon, in fact.
Oh, it is very soon, and that's very exciting. That because it's a whole new audience coming together, so all on the same galaxy sim behind it. Yeah. And I think that is a very big achievement, that the guys back at the office have done an absolutely fantastic job getting that to come together.
That happened for the first time this week.
That's right.
So well done to the server guys back home.
Yeah, well done to the server guys. Well done to everybody. I hate praising a particular subset because people go, oh.
Excellent. And now I get to do something that I've never done before and I'm always quite jealous of. I get to say, and one more thing, during a session.
Oh, God.
The most important feature of all.
No.
There are no words that can describe this, so I'm just going to let it play.
I only saw this 2 days ago.
That reports for David for being a good sport.
Up behind my back.
There's something wonderful about having renowned game developer David Braben sitting underneath that playing above him. That's just a great image.
It could be more embarrassing.
The game wouldn't be complete without it.
Yeah,
no,
so
it would. It would be fine without it.
So yeah, Bobbleheads are back, and David Braben is not the only one.
Yeah, there are plenty more, actually. Do you want to talk about the Bobbleheads?
Yeah, so, the David ones are available for a limited time for pre-order. And you can get it now. It's available in the store now, so everyone has to buy a David.
Can I just...
There are others coming, so keep an eye on our store for the new ones as they get added.
Get the others.
So not only did we have and one more thing, we also had... They're out now. They're available now.
They are.
That's
out
good.
Now, yeah.
I feel like Apple.
Right.
Brilliant. Well, yeah. There's nowhere we can go after that. There just isn't. Bobbleheads. They look great. I love that trailer.
It's taken us all year to get Bobbleheads.
It has.
Well, yeah, I'm just...
I knew we were getting bobbleheads, but it was... Anyway, never mind.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, thank you to everyone for joining us for this session, and thank you so much to Frontier for coming along and showing some new stuff.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
everybody for coming in. Thank you.